Well, hi there and welcome. Did you know that learning English can be fun? Well, I'm your host, Nas, native English speaker and CELTA certified, and I've created a unique little program that will help you get fluent and confident in 30 days. We're going to dive into Emily's diary. And for those of you who have been following and are addicted to Emily and her escapades, you're going to love this one, especially since it comes with an ebook. Now, I have a little request for you, something that's not going to cost you anything, absolutely free. If you enjoy our content, please do take a moment to like and subscribe. Our team really does appreciate it. And you know what? It motivates them to work even harder to provide quality content for you. Now, enough of the chit chat. Let's dive into Emily's diary. So, isn't it fun reading someone's diary? Are you ready? Let's do this. Day one, lost luggage. Again. It seems like travel and I have a bit of a love-hate relationship. After a long day of flights and layovers, I finally landed in Madrid. I was exhausted, excited, and honestly, just ready to crash at my hotel. But as I stood at the baggage carousel, I began to notice something alarming. I was the only one left waiting, and my suitcase was nowhere in sight. This wasn't my first time experiencing the dreaded lost luggage scenario, but it didn't make it any easier. I went to the lost baggage counter, feeling like a pro at this point, and filled out the necessary forms. They assured me that my suitcase would be delivered to my hotel within 48 hours. I'll admit, I felt a mix of frustration and humor. Part of me was annoyed, but another part of me saw the ridiculousness of it all. I mean, what are the odds? I'll just take it as a sign to embrace the spontaneity of travel and maybe shop for some new clothes in the meantime. Hopefully, my suitcase will catch up to me soon, but until then, I'll make the most of it. Here's to starting this trip with a plot twist. Day two, skydiving. I think I'm a thrill seeker now. So today, I checked something massive off my bucket list. Skydiving. I never saw myself as a thrill seeker, but I decided that life is too short not to try everything at least once. The experience started with a quick training session where they go over safety measures, the proper form, and how not to freak out midair. Despite all the instructions, nothing truly prepares you for that moment when you're standing at the edge of the plane, looking down at the world below. And then we jumped. The free fall was exhilarating. The adrenaline, the wind, and the sense of absolute freedom. After a few seconds that felt both eternal and like an instant, the parachute opened and everything became incredibly peaceful. The view was breathtaking. Landing safely back on the ground, I felt invincible. Skydiving isn't just about the jump, it's about pushing your boundaries and facing fears. Today, I learned that I have a bit more courage than I thought. Who knows what adventure tomorrow will bring? Day three, exploring new cuisine, a sushi revelation. I'm pretty adventurous when it comes to food, but tonight was a whole new experience. I went to this little Japanese restaurant that a friend recommended, and as soon as I walked in, I felt like I was somewhere in Tokyo. The ambiance, the soft lighting, and the friendly staff all set the perfect mood. I started with something familiar, miso soup and edamame. But then I decided to try sushi, which I'd only had once before. The sushi arrived, beautifully presented with vibrant colors and a side of wasabi that I may have underestimated. I took my first bite, and it was as if a world of flavors opened up, fresh, delicate, and with just a hint of spice. It was incredible. Even the wasabi, though it gave me a bit of a shock, added to the experience. Today, I learned something new about myself. I love sushi. It's funny how sometimes we resist certain foods only to discover later how much we enjoy them. Life lesson? Never say never. Day 4. Language barriers and funny misunderstandings. Today, I discovered the comedy that is navigating a foreign language. I tried to ask for directions at a local shop in Madrid, and though I speak a little Spanish, it didn't go exactly as planned. I was looking for a bookstore and thought I'd asked correctly. The shopkeeper gave me a very puzzled look and started pointing in a direction, but instead of a bookstore, I ended up at what seemed to be a hardware store. Turns out I'd mispronounced a word, and instead of libros, I'd somehow said ladrillos. I laughed, and even though I didn't get my book right away, the experience gave me a story to tell. Today's little mishap reminded me that mistakes are part of learning a language. I might feel silly at times, but these experiences are what make travel interesting and memorable. Here's to more amusing language adventures. Day 5, my latest obsession, learning the guitar. Today, I decided to dive into something new, learning to play the guitar. I've always loved music. I admire anyone who can just pick up an instrument and play. So I figured, why not try it myself? I bought a second-hand guitar, watched a few beginner videos, and spent most of the day just trying to get my fingers to cooperate. Who knew pressing on those strings would be so tough? The first song I'm trying to learn is a simple one, just a few chords, but it feels like an Everest of a challenge right now. My fingers are sore, and my strumming is anything but smooth. But as frustrating as it is, it's also incredibly rewarding to see even a little bit of progress. Here's hoping that by next month, I'll be able to play a whole song. If nothing else, I'll have a new skill and a bit more calloused fingers. Day 6, my first yoga class. Today, I decided to stretch outside my comfort zone, literally. I finally signed up for a yoga class, something I've been meaning to do forever. I'd heard so much about its benefits, improving flexibility, calming the mind, and all that. When I walked into the studio, it felt incredibly peaceful, with soft music playing and everyone stretching on their mats. But as the class began, I quickly realized that yoga is much tougher than it looks. Balancing on one leg, reaching forward, and trying not to fall over was a bit of a challenge, to say the least. By the end, I was a mix of wobbly and sore, but surprisingly relaxed. There's something about focusing on breathing and movement that makes you feel more connected to yourself. Today, I learned that yoga is both a workout and a form of meditation. I think I might have just found a new hobby. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll be able to touch my toes without bending my knees. Day 7, a day at the art museum. Today, I spent hours lost in art, and it was exactly what I needed. I went to the local art museum, hoping for a quiet, inspiring afternoon. I'm not exactly an art expert, but I've always loved wandering through galleries and seeing what each piece makes me feel. There's something magical about being surrounded by works that people put so much of themselves into. One painting in particular caught my eye. It was of a quiet forest, the kind that feels alive. I felt like I could step right into it and disappear among the trees. I stood there, staring for what must have been 10 minutes. I don't know why it resonated with me, but it did. Today, I realize that art is a language of its own. You don't have to understand it in words, you just feel it. Sometimes, art says things we don't know how to express ourselves. Day 8, baking disaster. Baking sounded like such a good idea until it wasn't. I decided to try my hand at baking today. I had this grand vision of making chocolate chip cookies from scratch. How hard could it be? I followed the recipe carefully, well, mostly, mixed the ingredients, and popped the tray in the oven. Everything seemed to be going well until I realized I'd accidentally set the temperature way too high. The cookies came out dark, a little smoky, and unfortunately, inedible. I couldn't help but laugh as I scraped the cookies off the tray. They were more like chocolate chip crisps. So today, I learned that baking isn't as foolproof as it looks. But hey, I won't give up just yet. Next time, I'll double check that temperature and try again. Maybe practice really does make perfect. Day 9, evening run and city lights. There's something calming about running through a city at night. I went for a run this evening, something I haven't done in a long time. The city was quieter than usual, with the soft hum of street lights and a cool breeze. I found myself running past familiar spots, but they all seemed different in the evening light, like a different side of the city. As I ran, I thought about how fast-paced life can feel and how important it is to slow down and just breathe. Running at night feels like a mixture of solitude and movement, a way to clear the mind while still pushing forward. Today, I was reminded of how refreshing it is to step outside, even when you don't feel like it. Sometimes we just need a change of scenery to gain a new perspective. Here's to more evening runs and moments of peace. Day 10, meeting an old friend for coffee. It's amazing how time flies, but friendships stay the same. I met up with an old friend for coffee today. We hadn't seen each other in years, but the moment we started talking, it felt like no time had passed at all. We laughed, shared stories, and caught up on everything we'd missed in each other's lives. She told me about her new job and the big move she's planning, while I shared my recent adventures and life challenges. There's something so comforting about reconnecting with someone who knows you well. We spent hours talking, and when it was time to leave, I felt grateful for friends who, no matter how much time passes, always feel like home. Today, I realize the value of old friendships. Life gets busy, but it's worth making time for the people who've been with us through it all. Here's to more coffee dates and catching up with old friends.